I mean, look, I think this one surprised me a bit because of all of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down with Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% with Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex, or close there too, in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints, or not.
You just proved that not everything online is real.
Yes,
in real life.
Who knew?
Amazing.
Twitter and X are not reality.
Is there any reason that you can find that this hasn't taken hold and hurt him?
Yeah. I mean, on X, all you hear about is the Epstein files. But how about out in the real public? Republicans who said the top issue was Epstein case. The answer is one, and not 1%. One responded. This is a great little finding that Ariel Edwards-Levy, who of course is part of our polling unit, found. Just one single Republican said that the nation's top problem is in fact the Epstein case. Not much of a surprise that therefore Donald Trump's approval rating has not suffered with Republicans because of the Epstein case, because the bottom line is most Americans say it's not high up on their priority.
What happens when the legacy media tries to destroy Donald Trump with their biggest bombshell ever, only to spectacularly backfire and unite his entire base like never before? Well, we just witnessed precisely that in real time over the last 12 hours, and it's absolutely glorious. The repulsive never-Trumpers over at the Wall Street Journal thought they had him cornered with their Jeffrey Epstein hit piece, but instead, they may have handed Trump the biggest political victory of his presidency thus far. We're going to see exactly how the Democrats and their legacy media allies just played themselves, and why we may look back and see how this moment was the one that defined Trump's entire second term. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor. It is my job to help you make sense of the madness. I keep you sane in insane times. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. As you can see, we're live on YouTube, on Rumble, on Twitter, you name it. You're not going to want to miss a single episode. We bring you the breaking stories and the analysis you're not going to hear anywhere else. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you today, more than ever for sure. Our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments or questions. It'll be my privilege to read them out to everyone. If you have questions or comments that you want me to read and answer, you can do that in two ways. Either through a one-time gift via our super chats or by becoming a Courageous Patriots Club member, where your one-time monthly gift will enable you to ask me as many questions as you like. So just click on that link below to join. You have instant access to all kinds of exclusive live Q&As and special content. Either way, it'll be my privilege to answer your questions throughout the live stream. Also, I do want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors for today's live streams, and that is Beam Dream. Now, I've told you guys about Beam Dream a lot. I've been using Beam Dream every night now for months, and I genuinely cannot imagine my nights without it. If you're like me, okay, I'd lie awake for hours thinking about the future, the news, the world. I just couldn't turn off my brain. It was exhausting, and it would take me about 2 hours to fall asleep every night. Now, seriously, with Beam Dream, I fall asleep within 30 minutes, and I stay asleep all throughout the night, and I wake up without that foggy, sluggish feeling. In fact, since I began taking Dream consistently, I've noticed a real difference in my focus, my mood, my energy throughout the day. You can see it right here. I'm giving you my best, right? Well, that's after a great night's sleep. So Dream is made up of top quality, science-backed ingredients that help you relax and get the deep, uninterrupted sleep your body needs. So seriously, gang, I take this Beam Dream every night. It's become a ritual I actually look forward to. And unlike other sleep aids, there's no grogginess the next day, just clear-headed, focused energy. So if sleep is something that you've been struggling with, and let's admit it, most of us are, I simply cannot recommend Beam Dream enough. Right now, you can save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click on the link below or scan the QR code and use code Turley at checkout. Don't settle for restless nights. Try Dream. You'll feel the difference. Click on that link below right now. It's amazing stuff. All right. My friends, the woke left is simply the gift that keeps on giving. Never in my life have I seen a political movement that so predictably trips over itself, that so predictably steps on the lying down rake, that so consistently and recurrently self-implodes, that routinely snatches defeat from the jaws of victory as the utterly narcissistic, self-unaware woke left. To call them the Wile E. Coyote of politics would be an insult to Warner Brothers. Because at least Wile E. could assemble an Acme rocket in his would-be futile pursuit of the Roadrunner. At least Wile E. Coyote was entertaining. Unlike Wile E. Colbert, unlike the now cringe, unemployed Stephen Colbert, Wile E. Coyote was funny. No. The woke left is in a class all by itself when it comes to total and complete and consistent failure. After weeks of Republican infighting, after days upon days of members of the MAGA faithful turning on each other over these Epstein files, the woke left, the Democrat dolts, found a way to unite MAGA and the Republican Party like never before. And I'm going to lay it all out for you. Let's start with what actually happened. So all this week, the Wall Street Journal, owned by the ultra never Trump Rupert Murdoch and his News Corps, they spent days hyping up what they called a bombshell explosive story about Trump's relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. The anticipation was building. Trump's opponents were salivating, hoping beyond hope that the dreams of Rachel Maddow would finally come true, that this would finally be the end of the Trump presidency. And then the Wall Street Journal, as of yesterday, as of last night, released this bombshell story. And like Geraldo standing in front of Al Capone's just open vault, the bombshell that was supposed to rock the very foundations of the Trump presidency turned out to be what many are calling the most pathetic political dud ever. It was an alleged birthday letter from the year 2003 that Trump supposedly wrote to Jeffrey Epstein. It featured a lewd, hand-drawn outline of a naked woman with the message, "Happy birthday, Jeffrey, and may every day be another wonderful secret." I mean, just reading that makes me it's just so fun. Does that even remotely sound like Donald, the guy grew up in Queens? Happy birthday, Jeffrey. And may every day be another wonderful secret. That's it. That's their smoking gun. A supposed birthday card from over 20 years ago. It's both a hand-drawn picture and a mock dialogue between Trump and Epstein. It has literally nothing to do, no resemblance whatsoever to the literal library of volumes of past writings that we have directly from Trump's pen. There's nothing that even remotely corroborates that this came from Trump 20 years ago to boot. And now we're learning the Wall Street Journal doesn't even have the letter in their possession. And they can't even corroborate its authenticity. It just came from some memoir of Jeffrey Epstein's. But they went ahead and, like the sleazy legacy media outlet scum that they are, the tabloid tramps that they and the legacy media as a whole have become, they went ahead and published it anyway in a desperate attempt to try to hurt Trump in the midst of all of this Republican and MAGA infighting. I wouldn't use the Wall Street Journal for toilet paper at this point. And if you've got a subscription, cancel it now. You could go off this live stream as far as I'm concerned and cancel it now. Now, first off, gang, seriously, as of this morning, now we know why Trump has been avoiding the Epstein files like Superman and Kryptonite over the past few weeks. Now we know. Now it all makes sense. It wasn't making sense. Even Alex Jones was going, I don't understand it. I do a whole episode what Trump's, I don't know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden he gives another tweet saying he hates all the MAGA people who are obsessed with Epstein. I know what he's doing. You know, I mean, that's my best Alex Jones. So. I mean, everybody was like, why is he saying the things he's saying? Why is he doing this? Now it all makes sense. Now we know why Trump has been saying that the Epstein files are actually just another Democrat scam. It's like the Russia collusion hoax, another Democrat fabricated lie put together by Obama, Clinton, and Biden. He got wind of this story coming a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if he knew the precise details, but he did know it was going to be a scandalous piece, deliberately trying to tie Trump to Epstein and his sexual abuses. So now we know why Trump has been playing down the Epstein files and even attributing them to Democrat operatives. So this tabloid trash hit piece explains a lot over what's been going on over the last few weeks. And we're getting corroboration that Trump knew about it for the last couple of weeks because of what Trump just did. Trump did not just completely, totally, absolutely, unequivocally deny anything involving this Wall Street Journal hit piece. He went nuclear. He announced he's going to be suing the Wall Street Journal. He's going to be suing News Corp, and he's going to be suing Rupert Murdoch himself. According to Trump, he had personally warned both the Journal and Murdoch that the letter was absolutely fake and that they were not to even think about publishing this piece, especially after they couldn't even corroborate its authenticity. But they published it anyway. So again, this is confirmation they knew about the hit piece ahead of time. And I think it explains a lot of Trump's rather dismissive posture towards the Epstein files, and even towards many of his MAGA supporters who felt so betrayed over how he's been handling the release of the files. And, you know, I'm just going to say it. I am going to say it. I say it maybe once every couple of years. So now's a perfect time for me to say this. There are too many effing black pillars on the right. There are too many effing black pillars on the right. I have been dealing with their negative nanny dooming vomit for 8 freaking years on this channel. Now, don't get me wrong. 98% of my audience, I love, you know, you guys are awesome. We're all in this together. We know a new conservative age is rising. We get it. We understand the massive global, not globalist, global dynamics that are happening. It's moving the world back to a nationalist, populist, traditionalist age. We know that. But the right, there is like 2%, whatever. The right is replete with these online trolls and yes, influencers who simply cannot comprehend how the world is actually moving in our direction, how we are actually winning, not just here, but all over the freaking world. That's why I write my books. My books are there to document all the scholarly literature that shows, yes, Globalism is dead and a new civilizationalist conservative world is rising. And we've got a right-wing ecosphere that is addicted to losing. Forget not being tired of winning. These online and influencer a-holes don't even know how to win. It's why I don't listen to them. It's why I pay no heed to them. That's why they're so despondent and despairing all the time, no matter what. They have no idea how to win. They've constructed an entire perception of the world that is utterly defeatist, bleak, cynical, repulsively fatalistic. And you don't build civilization with that. You don't save civilization with that. You only further destroy it and burn it down. They only know how to tear down Trump and his administration, spread their misery and their cloud of doom everywhere they digitally roam. President Trump, in fairness to him, has had to deal with this despairing doom loop on the right now for more than 3 weeks. And I've done my best. If you follow this channel, if not, make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button. But I have done my best to try to give both sides of the Epstein saga their due, because they are both legit parts of the MAGA coalition. So there are those who care very, very deeply about the Epstein files. And I have talked and I have expressed their concerns, I think, very faithfully. There are those who care deeply about the Epstein files. And there are devout, hardcore MAGA supporters who could not give a flipping rip about them. And unfortunately, the influencer world, the online independent content creator world, my world, they have seemingly staked their careers on exposing the Epstein files. So they don't just care about them. I mean, Epstein, it just appears, is like their entire world. And again, I get it. I've reported on it. I've analyzed it. Epstein legitimately represents a two-tier justice system where a globalist political and economic elite get away with the most heinous crimes imaginable. Absolutely. And that is horrific. We should be repulsed by that. Epstein represents further a deep state that functions as a rogue parallel government comprised of international intelligence agencies that operate by both blackmail and freaking murder. I get it. It's horrific. They spread chaos everywhere they go with their color revolutions and the like. But for heaven's sakes, can we at least find some semblance of trust and fidelity and credence for the guy who literally got shot in the face for us? Can we now acknowledge that there was indeed a very reasonable, viable rationale for how the Trump administration has been handling the Epstein files up till now? Again, we're now learning, this is coming from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, that the Wall Street Journal is refusing to show the Trump administration the letter. They have conceded that the Wall Street Journal, don't even have it in their possession when they were asked to verify the alleged document they're basing their entire freaking fake story on. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So Trump is doing what Trump does best. He is fighting back. He's not wallowing in despair. Why did they do this? What? until they betrayed me again. Rupert Murdoch, oh, he's betrayed. I knew it. He's a neocon. He's fighting back. He's going to sue their asses just like he did with ABC's utterly repulsive Georgie Stephanopoulos and CBS's 60 Minutes, who deliberately tried to interfere in a presidential election by doctoring that disastrous interview with Cackles Kamala. The latest word we're getting as of this morning is that Trump is going to call Rupert Murdoch to the stand to testify in court. Murdoch is going to be required to take the stand. That is, unless he settles like the cowards at CBS and ABC did, which he will. Just watch. He will. Oh, and the memes are already coming out on that. This is what Trump's presidential library is going to look like after all these multi-million-dollar lawsuits. If you're listening by way of our 20 million podcast downloads, it's a picture of the Versailles Palace. I mean, and it's all been paid for by all these legacy media outlets that are paying out tens of millions of dollars because they lie. I mean, he crushed ABC in their false reporting. He crushed CBS with their deliberate manipulation, deceptive editing, and went on to win that election in a landslide. Now he's going to finally crush that rabidly anti-Trump sycophant, Rupert Murdoch. I certainly hope Rupert Murdoch, I hope Fox News gets new ownership very, very soon. I found it quite interesting that neither Jesse Waters nor Sean Hannity touched this story in their shows last night. Nobody is going near this. And for good reason. Because if the woke left and the anti-Trumpers thought this was going to hurt Trump, they are, as of today, finding themselves in their own world of hurt. This is where this story takes a turn for the glorious, because the woke left, like they always do, seem to manage to bring together the MAGA movement as more united than ever through their pathetic, backfiring antics. Wait until you see this. But first, gang, if you are just joining us on our live stream Friday, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Let us know what you think by either sending us a super chat or by clicking on that link below and joining our Courageous Patriot Club, where for just only a 1 monthly fee, I'll feature your comments on all our broadcasts, and you can ask me as many questions as you like. I'll be happy to answer them here on this live stream. Also, do you ever wonder why your brain feels foggy? Even when you're eating clean and exercising, it may not be burnout. It could be, I kid you not, parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan McDonald revealed a direct link between chronic parasitic infections and neurological diseases like multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. Well, the wellness companies got you covered. They've got a solution for you. Ivermectin and mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution, now combined in one cleanse combo designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmicks. Fill out just a quick intake form and get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. MAHA is officially here, and the wellness company is making hard-to-get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life now. Head on over to twc.health/Turley. Use code Turley to save $90 off plus free shipping. Click on that link below and cleanse your body today. Neat stuff. I mean, I love the wellness company. We just had Kelly Victory on. I love her name, Dr. Kelly Victory, on, I believe, last weekend, 2 weekends ago, talking about just precisely this amazing stuff, this body cleanse to get rid of all the parasites in your body. Gosh knows what we've got in our bodies, that's for sure. All right, here's where the story takes a turn that only a Trump story can take. Just days before this Wall Street Journal story dropped, as you know, Trump's MAGA base was experiencing what many have called the biggest internal division since the movement began. Many Trump supporters were furious about the administration's handling of the Epstein files. Many were calling for Attorney General Pam Bondi and her immediate resignation. Trump himself even ended up basically lashing out at his own supporters, calling them weaklings for being duped by Democrats, basically saying, I don't want you voting for me. I don't want you supporting me anymore. The Washington Examiner, which is itself, it wrestles with its own Rupert Murdoch-like never Trump nonsense. The Washington Examiner went so far as to say that this could end up being Trump's Afghanistan, referring to Biden's dramatic drop in approval after he botched the Afghanistan withdrawal in the August of the first year of his presidency, the summer of his first year of his presidency. It was a poll drop that he never recovered from. And lo and behold, the moment that the Wall Street Journal story hit, everything changed. And I mean literally everything. The entire MAGA ecosystem that was blackpilling and doom spooling all over the place, they suddenly turned around and rallied around Trump like we haven't seen in years. The response from major conservative voices was immediate and unified. And ironically, one of the first to come to Trump's defense was none other than Elon Musk himself. The guy was just weeks ago claiming that Trump was in the Epstein files. Now, again, this whole fabricated fiasco coming from the Wall Street Journal explains so much of what we've been seeing over the last several weeks. But Elon was one of the first to call this out as pure and total BS, bogus in his words. Megyn Kelly, again, another huge critic of Trump's handling of the Epstein files over the last few weeks. She called it, quote, the dumbest attempted hit piece I've ever read. Laura Loomer, who had been demanding more transparency, of course, on Epstein, defended Trump, saying that Rupert Murdoch is a backstabber and that Trump should cut him off forever. And of course, J.D. Vance, our amazing vice president, who many are all, you're way behind, man. There you go. Come on. My team back there is falling asleep. J.D. Vance, there we go. Our amazing vice president. Many are already calling him number 48, rightly so. He came out and said it bluntly. Forgive my language, but this story is complete and utter bullshit. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing it. Here's Speaker of the House Mike Johnson just this morning on CNBC.
On drugs, woo, 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 because someone drew in 2003, might have drawn a picture of a body letter before the guy even, all the real info hadn't even been out at that point, I don't think, about this guy.
The president and I talked about that ridiculous allegation this morning. He said it's patently absurd. He's never drawn such a picture. He's never thought of drawing such a picture. And he said, did you see the language of this bogus supposed communication or card or something I supposedly sent to Epstein? He said, I don't talk like that. I don't think like that. They're literally making things up. And he's so frustrated by it. And he's going to wind up, I think, suing some of the media outlets that have put all this out there because they informed them that it was totally contrived. So, look, the president is the most maligned and attacked political figure in the history of American politics. There's no question about it. But he's also the most resilient. And you see at the same time his approval ratings are skyrocketing. By CNN had a story, I think, a day or two ago. He was at 90% approval rating. There's never been a president that high. So the more that they attack him, the more the American people see through it.
I think Julie Kelly, frankly, said it best. She did put up a great tweet. Yeah, go ahead. That's it right there. This article is actually a gift. Unsubstantiated garbage published by a Never Trump news org claiming to have some smoking gun about ties between the president and Epstein is precisely the sort of bad faith coverage the president can use as a lifeline. Hopefully, the administration will mock the shit out of it rather than express outrage or try to debunk. And that's, of course, exactly what is happening. That's bullseye. The anti-Trumpers, the Democrats, the woke left, the legacy media, they will never seem to realize that whenever they team up to so obviously sabotage President Trump, whether it's in the form of the Russian collusion hoax or all the fake news fabrications or the lawfare and the sham indictments, whatever it is, all it ends up doing is uniting the MAGA base to rally around Trump. It happens every single time. After the Mar-a-Lago raid, Trump's polls went up 10 points. They soared. We did Alvin Bragg indictment. That was released Thursday night. We had a live stream Friday, literally just hours after that Alvin Bragg Manhattan corrupt DA released his indictment. And I told you, you watch. This is going to make Trump more popular than ever. And what happened? His polls went up. His support increased. It happens every time. After they freaking tried to kill him in Butler, Pennsylvania, it seemed like the entire world rallied around Trump. And again, we know why. This isn't just surmising. It's not just opinion. We talk about this all the time on this channel. It's a dynamic that social cultural anthropologists call the process of segmentary oppositions. It's a fancy schmancy way of saying external threats breed internal solidarity. External threats breed internal. So I'm going all Gavin Newsom here. External threats breed internal solidarity. It's technically known as the process of segmentary oppositions. We see it all the time. For example, as kids, like my brother and I don't have a brother, but I'm just giving you an example, illustration. My brother and I might drive our mother crazy because we can't get along. We're always fighting, right? But then our cousins come on over. And then if they threaten us in any way, well, my brother and I, who were just fighting, we'll end up like banding together against any kind of external conflict coming from our cousins. So you've heard of numerous occasions, right, where you got like some drunk couple fighting, drunk husband and wife or what, boyfriend, girlfriend. They're making a scene. Someone calls the police shows up, and the pair who were just hating on each other and fighting, they end up banding together against the police. It's this very same principle of segmentary oppositions. And scholars have noticed, I mean, you just can keep going with this. So if my brother and my cousins get into a conflict with the neighbor's kids, right? So we're all fighting, and my mom sends us out of the house, and then we go out into the neighborhood and we hang out with the neighbor's kids, and all of a sudden the neighbor kids become a little bit of a threat. Then all of a sudden our whole extended family, my brother, my cousins, we now all see ourselves as one. And then if our neighborhood were faced with threats from kids from another neighborhood, what happens? Same dynamic. We all band together against the rival neighborhood, and so on and so on and so on. And now you see how nations can rise up against nations, right? External threats breed internal solidarity. So this is why, and I will say every time, I mean, you could literally put money on this. Every time the anti-Trump forces try to take Trump out, the entire MAGA movement rallies around him. Guaranteed. It happens literally every single time. Their efforts at weakening Trump only end up making him stronger. I mean, if you haven't learned that over the last 8 years, dude, you have not learned freaking anything. I don't know what else to tell you. But here's where Trump showed us his true political genius. What did he do? Let's close this circle. Let's close the loop. All right. So we saw the story drop, the bombshell, the Geraldo, Al Capone vault gets open, and it's a massive nothing burger. Trump turns around, and that explains precisely now why Trump was doing everything he could to distance, because I have a feeling he did not know exactly. Well, he did. He did say he knew, at least at the tail end of it, before they released it, he did know that it was this supposed birthday card. And he said, dude, I didn't write that. Authenticate. Show me your authentication. They didn't even have it in their possession, for heaven's sakes. I'm talking about the Wall Street Journal. So he said, whether you better not drop it. So that explains why he's been kind of distancing himself from the whole Epstein fiasco. And then they drop it. And then he turns around and says, that's it. I'm going to sue your asses as a result of that. And then what we find is his poll numbers go up. More and more people band together around him. And now how does he close it? How does this whole story arc end? What does he do? What did he just order last night? What is it? Put in the chat. What did Trump just order to be released today? I mean, if this isn't, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I'm just going to say, if this isn't 4D chess, I don't know what the hell is. Immediately after the Wall Street Journal story completely backfired, Trump went full nuclear. He made a move that caught everyone on the left completely off guard. He immediately ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to release all grand jury testimony related to Jeffrey Epstein. That's what the Epstein files are. They're the grand jury testimony and all the evidence that we have now on Epstein. And Attorney General Bondi responded immediately. She tweeted out, President Trump, we are ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts. Again, again, they have to be careful with victims and victims' names and a lot of that. There is a lot of sensitivity, legitimately so, over this release, no question. But again, it was almost like it was literally scripted to play out this way. This is so freaking amazing. So apparently at some point today, the Epstein files will indeed be released. And now on top of all that, as you heard at the very beginning, the polls are coming out. And it's like clockwork. It's the same thing we've been seeing for 8 years. The polls come out and Trump is freaking stronger than ever. Now, at this point in his presidency, especially after the last 3 weeks, we should be seeing a massive slip. We certainly saw that with Biden around this time in 2021. But lo and behold, look at what we got. Quantum Insights, one of the most accurate pollsters of 2024, they have Trump at a solid 48% approval rating. Remember, Trump always outperforms his polls by at least 2 points. That's what you have to remember. 48% is very solid, very strong. And I right before we went live, I saw Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen found Trump was +2 today. So whatever his approval rating is, it's 2 points higher than his negative ratings. And take a look at the latest generic ballot. So this is who you're going to vote for in the upcoming midterms. According to McLaughlin's polling, John McLaughlin, the Republicans are up 5. They're up freaking 5 over the Democrats. Now, even Harry Enton over at CNN was pointing out yesterday that in their own polling, they only have the Democrats up by 2 in their generic ballot polling. That is nowhere where they need to be if they want to have a blue wave. So if you compare to where the Democrats were at this time in relation to 2018 and the 2006 midterms, when they won over 40 plus seats to take back the House, they were like +7, +8, +9. They're +2 now. They're +2. So so right now, as we speak, 2026 there is no blue wave at all. If anything, they're predicting they might be able to pick up 2 or 3 seats. That's it. By contrast, take a look at the Democrat approval. If you can see it, behold it. They are -53 right now. According to the latest Quinnipiac, they're at 19% approval, a -53. 7 out of 10 voters disapprove of the Democrats. They are officially under the 20% mark. They're about as popular as herpes right now. This Wall Street Journal debacle is just the latest example of how the mainstream media has completely destroyed its own credibility. They've cried wolf so many times that even when Trump's own supporters were frustrated with him, they still refused to believe obvious media manipulation. The Journal story was so transparently fake that it helped Trump. It didn't hurt him. What we're witnessing is a perfect example of how Trump continues to outmaneuver his political opponents. The Democrats and their media allies thought that they could exploit divisions within the MAGA base to finally take down Trump. Instead, they just reminded everyone why they support Trump in the first place. Because the alternative is trusting the same people who've been lying to us for years. The Epstein issue was threatening to become Trump's biggest political liability. Again, we covered it. There was definitely some concern that this was inflicting some permanent cracks in his base. But by forcing his hand with an obviously fake, fabricated story, the Wall Street Journal gave Trump the opportunity to turn it into a victory. Now, instead of being on the defensive, Trump is on the offensive, promising to release documents that will likely expose the real perpetrators while simultaneously filing lawsuits against the media outlets that desperately tried to defame him and frame him. This episode has massive implications for Trump's presidency going forward. First, it shows that the MAGA base, while willing to criticize Trump, we are not a cult. We will criticize him. If we think he's miscalculating, we'll say it. We'll be very open. We will disagree with him. But nevertheless, we will never tolerate obvious media manipulation. We'll never go there. We're a family. We argue, but we're always a family. Second, it demonstrates that Trump's enemies are so desperate to stop him that their only recourse is to fabricate evidence, which only strengthens Trump's whole witch hunt narrative. Most importantly, it shows that Trump has learned how to use the media's own tactics against him. Instead of just denying the story, he's taking legal action while simultaneously using the controversy to push for the release of documents that will likely expose his real enemies and appease that portion of his base that are so invested in it. The Wall Street Journal's Epstein hit piece will go down in history as one of the most spectacular media backfires of all time. What was supposed to be the story that finally brought down Trump instead became that story that united his base and handed him a massive political victory. The Democrats and their media allies keep making the same mistake. They underestimate Trump's ability to turn their attacks into opportunities. They thought they could exploit divisions within the MAGA base, but instead, they reminded everyone why we support Trump in the first place. As we move forward, this episode serves as a perfect reminder of why the American people elected Trump. Not because he's perfect, but because he's willing to fight back against a corrupt system that will stop at nothing to destroy anyone who threatens their power and affluence. The Wall Street Journal thought they were publishing a bombshell. Instead, they just handed Trump the ammunition he needed to go on the offensive. And based on what we've seen so far, this is just the beginning. The swamp is panicking. The media is desperate. And Trump, well, he's stronger than ever. Buckle up, gang. This is going to be one hell of a ride. Over to you, over to you, over to you. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I'm sure you got plenty to say about this whole Epstein thing and just this amazing hero's arc, story arc that we're seeing as Micah is putting together all of your questions. Remember, you can ask it in two ways. You can either send us a super chat. I'll be happy to answer it there. Or you can join our Courageous Patriots Club at fight.charlietalks.com/join, where for just one monthly fee, you will be able to ask me any questions, as many questions as you want, or as many comments as you want. I'll be happy to answer them here. Also, if you are a homeowner, you do need to listen to this. When was the last time you checked on your home title? Okay, that's the legal proof you own your house. Well, if you're like me, the answer is never. Well, the problem is in today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity is the target. And it works. I mean, it's crazy how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document. They use a fake notary stamp. They pay a small fee with your county, and that's it. Boom. Your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then what they do is they take out all these loans using your equity, or they even sell your property and pocket the cash. And you won't even know what happened until you get a collection or foreclosure notice. So that's why you need to stop what you're doing and find out today if you've already been a victim. Use promo code TurleyTalks at HomeTitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You also get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial. You get to try it out totally for free. Their $1 million triple lock protection. It's amazing. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud were to happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. So go to HomeTitleLock.com right now. Use promo code TurleyTalks. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code TurleyTalks. All right, Michael, what do we got? What do we got? Franz, good to hear from you. Good morning, Dr. Steve. Does the body politic have a symbiotic relationship with propaganda? Yeah. It's not, I mean, propaganda is a neutral term. We use it pejoratively, but it is a neutral term. Because anytime you're trying to deliberately persuade the masses to be inclined in a particular way, to be disposed to a particular issue, that is technically propaganda. I could give you, I mean, what would be a very good technical definition of propaganda? We tend to think of that as manipulation, and that's not good. And this goes all the way back to the classical Greeks. So this is Plato basically arguing with Aristotle, actually the other way around, because Aristotle comes later. Plato didn't like the classical rhetorical tradition, particularly the sophists, because he believed it was purely manipulative. It was propaganda. It was literally just, he saw it because it was so neutral and it meant it could be used for really bad things, to try to manipulate people to believe in lies, deliberately manipulate them to believe in lies. Aristotle went the other way. Aristotle said, because it's neutral, we need to cultivate the virtuous side of it. So he would ask questions like, which is the better doctor? The one that tells you that you're sick but can't convince you? Or the one who tells you that you're sick and can convince you so you can take the right treatment? Well, obviously, the doctor that can persuade you to the truth is better. So let me let's see if we can get a nice definition for you with that. Propaganda is a deliberate and systematic attempt to shape perceptions, manipulate cognitions, and direct behavior to achieve a desired response. That's an AI overview. So yes, the body politic, by nature, if politics is all about power and persuasion, then by nature, the body politic will always be propagandistic. So that's why we have to be on guard. That's why, again, the founding fathers, I thought, were so brilliant in this sense of wanting a free and fair press, to be able to counter the claims of our body politic with corroboration and to determine whether or not what they're saying really is true. Is it true that tariffs are going to raise prices and inflation? Well, there's a case that can be made that it can. There's a case that can be made that it won't, and you have to be able to weigh those. And both people arguing both sides have to try to do their best to persuade. And then the media is supposed to be, I thought, a kind of balancing act with that. And of course, the media just takes whatever the Democrat talking point is, so they just become propagandistic in its most negative sense. But yes, propaganda, by definition, is a part of the body politic. It is absolutely symbiotic, and but it can be for either good or for bad. Trump is a master propagandist when it comes to convincing you of the truth. Richard, Dr. Steve, your thoughts on Dr. O'Connor are, yes, Bernal refusing to answer questions at the Autopen hearings. Guilty little weasels. Oh, how dare you say that? I'm a doctor and I plead the fifth. What was it? Did at any time did you see like Joe Biden just absolutely cognitively not with it? And what was the answer? The question was, this is with Bernal. Was that Joe Biden's technically Joe Biden's assistant? Was there any time that you saw Joe Biden not cognitively fit to be president? I have been advised to answer that as he pleaded the fifth. And I think Scott Jennings, he was asked, what do you do with Trump's medical concerns and diagnosis? Why aren't you as freaked out about that as you are with Biden? His answer was perfect, because the people, the medical, the physicians around Trump diagnosing his medical condition are not pleading the fifth. That's the difference. You freak it. See, this is what I mean. I mean, the very fact that you have these CNN, just social illiterates asking the most patently obviously stupid questions. I mean, anyway, no, I mean, obviously, if ever the phrase "where there's smoke, there's fire" were true, it's this. Obviously, so O'Connor, he's in Delaware here. He's just like 20 minutes away from me. Delaware is very small. Everybody knows everybody in Delaware. I've never met him, but I know people who know him. This is a family doctor of Biden's, and as I understand, he's not even a GP. So, I mean, it was just a weird kind of relationship. But yeah, I mean, it's clearly corrupt. It's clearly corrupt, and all it does is fuel the fire for more investigation. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But at the again, I think Gutfeld was talking about this last night. We all saw it. It's not like we're uncovering anything we don't know. We all saw that Biden was cognitively and physically degenerate. We all saw it. And we were just surrounded by a bunch of Soviet gaslighting, a Politburo saying, no, and nothing to see here. Everything's wonderful, most particularly Jake Tapper, ironically. And so now it's just more or less, how do we humiliate these people? How do we find some smoking guns of where they did know it and they knowingly lied? So yeah, it's that's nuts. I love it. Guilty little weasels for sure, Richard. ROT Core Dr. Turley, now known as the Back Porch Patriot Professor. Yes. So I'm trying. From now on, it looks like I do enjoy that. I've gotten a lot of feedback from you guys. So maybe morning and evening videos are going to be on the back porch. We'll have coffee together. We'll end the day together, maybe with an adult beverage, whatever you like, in the evening. It started to rain last night. You might want to check out my what Putin said about Greenland, America annexing Greenland. Very interesting pushback there. It started to rain, so I had to go inside. But we'll do our day videos in the studio. But I think a morning and an evening video out on the back porch would be really nice. Say that 5 times fast, right? Welcome back from vacation. Lake George looks amazing. Too bad it's in the communist poop hole. That is New York. Sorry, New York Turley talkers. That's right. Well, again, so I talked to some of the locals. We went to a winery right around there. And my sister lived in New York for a number of years, New York City. And she said they asked if we're local, and I grew up in Connecticut, and she said she lived in New York City for a while. And he goes, "Oh, that's not New York. That's not New York. This is real New York." And it's red New York. It's very, very, most people up there are very conservative, which is pretty cool. It's been so long. I don't think I have good questions prepared today. Mostly just silly comments and snarky jokes. So always great to hear from you, ROT. That's right. I meant to say that at the very beginning. Like, this is our first real live stream Friday in how many weeks? Because I've been away, or we had the July the 4th weekend. That was really cool. That was the day of the signing of the one big beautiful bill. Before all of this unpleasantness kind of broke out, the whole Jeffrey Epstein fiasco, the way it was handled, at least by the Justice Department, was announced that weekend of all weekends. That's actually what's one of the theories It's one of the theories that this was an inside job, that Justice Department officials were trying to throw Pam Bondi under the bus, and Cash and Dan, by releasing it the way they did. So anyway, it's just interesting theories there. Davros, I was missing new Dr. Turley videos over the weekend, so I watched old shows like From Woke Liberals to Conservative Scholar, the story of Dr. Steve Turley from March of 2021, where you mentioned liking George W. Bush, but then turning against him. I was in Afghanistan in 2004. Thank you for your service, Davros. For Bush's reelection, and I argued with my soldier pal who always hated Bush. Trump's more effective than Bush, but can you explain why you don't like Bush? Oh, it's the neo good. No, I appreciate that, Davros. And I think we only have it was either Bush or Kerry, and I voted Bush, and I voted Bush with Bush v. Gore, citing the court case there with the Florida ballots. No, I just the argument is simply that that Bush in the end was just simply the conservative version, or the right version of globalism. So of literally liberalism, and liberalism is predicated on the notion of open borders, so as to import foreign workers, cheap labor, so as to keep the production costs of goods at very, very low rate. At the same time, there's a global division of labor to send manufacturing and industry over to the global south, so as to keep manufacturing costs very low, but with CEO wages, corporate executive wages very, very high. So what we've seen, doesn't matter which party's in control, since the 1960s, this massive gap form, you move away from each other in terms of the flat wages of workers and employees, and the massive gains, particularly in bonuses among CEOs. And then what they would do is they would use a kind of wokeness. We didn't call it wokeness back then, but they would use a political correctness to shut down any dissent from that by calling it xenophobic and racist and so forth. And then after 2001, Bush went full neocon with the Pax Americana concept. And that's this notion, well, it goes back to Francis Fukuyama in the 1990s and his end of history thesis, arguing that the whole of the world was finally coming to an agreement on the best political and economic system, and that's liberal, democratic liberalism. And it's only a matter of time. This was after the fall of the Soviet Union. It was only a matter of time before every nation in the world ends up becoming liberal democratic. And then people like Charles Krauthammer came in the late 90s and early aughts, especially after 9/11, and basically said, well, if this is inevitable, if history is moving in the direction of liberal democracy, why wait? Now, this is technically a kind of Leninism, right? If everything is going to this dialectically materialistic communist utopia, if that's just where history is going, why wait? Why suffer through the lag? Let's just go there. Let's bring people there by force. And so that's what's known as America's unipolar moment. And so when you combine the end of history with America's unipolar moment, you get Iraq, you get Syria, you get all of our foreign wars, the 20 years in Afghanistan, and all this sort of stuff. And all of that, what we have to understand, is liberal by its nature. It is liberalism. There's just a left-wing version and a right-wing version. And with the fall, the more I read, I went more with Sam Huntington's thesis, who was also arguing in the early 90s, the Clash of Civilizations thesis, that argued that the fall of the Soviet Union was not the fall of Soviet communism and the victory of Western liberalism. It was the fall of ideology itself. It was the fall of political ideology. So he argued that the 20th century was the century of ideology. The whole world was organized around two major political powers: Western liberalism versus Soviet communism. So the question was, which did you believe? Who were you? What belief system, what ideology were you aligned with? With the fall of the Soviet Union, Fukuyama thought Western liberalism had won, but what Sam Huntington argued was, no. The Soviet Union fell precisely because nobody believes in this sort of modernist ideology anymore that's trying to find the one-size-fits-all political economic system for the world. We had been trying to find that for about 300 years. And in terms of the modernist structure, we basically had three options. It was either Western liberalism, Nazi fascism, or Soviet communism. Western liberalism, Soviet communism teamed up to kick out Nazi fascism. And then they had their Cold War period. And then when the Soviet Union collapsed, Sam Huntington basically said that was the collapse of ideology. It's not like now this ideology is won. It looks like that, but you could be assured that Western liberalism will collapse as well, at least as a globalist system. And when that collapses, we move from an age of an ideology to an age of identity, where more and more populations go back to nation, culture, custom, and tradition as their basis of social order. And that's what Pat Buchanan was arguing in the early 90s. And he argued again in 96 and 2000. All his books about that's where the world is going. And he was calling for America to embrace that early on, right after the fall of the Soviet Union. But it took us not until 2016 until we embraced that. And so that's why I moved away from kind of the Bush globalist liberalism and this kind of Republican right-wing neocon version of it. And I went more with what I thought to be a much more consistent nationalist, populist, and traditionalist paradigm of MAGA. Maximilian, good to hear from you. What exactly is rationalism, and what are the limits? What are its limits as an epistemology, particularly in a political context? So, rationalism is the idea that that true knowledge is rooted in logical inference. So, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. That would be a form of rational knowledge. It doesn't mean that there is such a person as Socrates. It doesn't even mean there's such a thing as mortality or anything like that. All we're saying is if the major premise is true and the minor premise is true, then the conclusion must be true as well. We have certitude of knowledge coming from the rules of inference from a major premise and a minor premise. Its limitations are that the problem of what's known as infinite regress. So I know my conclusion is true. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. I know that is absolutely true. If all I know it's true, all men are mortal. So how do I know all men are mortal? Well, that itself has to be the inference, the conclusion of two prior premises, a major premise and a minor premise. But how do I know that major premise is true? Well, it has to be the logical conclusion of two previous premises, and that never stops. So in many ways, rationalism has its feet planted firmly in midair. And so now some kind of get away from that, where they try to go into what's called apodeictic rhetoric, where you root things in performative contradictions in terms of their denial. So I could start with a premise, some things exist. I could start with that premise. And in order for you to, I know that's true because in order for you to deny it, you have to affirm it. So I say some things exist. So I don't know that. Well, wait a minute, but I don't know that. You just gave me an I, a negation, and then a demonstrative that. But those are things. Some things exist. You can't deny the existence of things without evoking things. Or another one is I exist. Well, I don't necessarily know that. Well, what? Who said that? I don't necessarily. So in order to deny your own existence, you end up affirming it. I remember coming across a professor's lecture, and he was once lecturing about epistemology, and one student shot up and said, "How do you even know I exist?" And apparently the professor lowered his glasses and said, "Whom shall I say is asking?" Right. So that's the stronger version of a rational argument. But again, even there, you're presupposing the legitimacy of the law of non-contradiction, of contradicting if you contradict yourself, you're by definition not true. Then you get an Eastern logic that's more both and logic, that doesn't see it as a contradiction. It sees it more as a paradox that gets resolved in the mystery of being. So it gets tricky. I'm just saying, it just, they say handling brains is very messy, and it does get a little bit tricky. But I think I think rationalism is very, very good. How it applies in the political context, as I understand it, is generally it's going to be in political philosophy, political science, in terms, and very much along the lines of libertarians, where you identify ironclad principles, or supposedly ironclad principles. So Thomas Sowell is brilliant at this in economics, where he basically unpacks for you the logic, the rationality of human action, of human what's called praxis, praxis. And human action, human praxis has a logic to it. And if it has a logic to it, then we can actually predict. There's a predictive significance to that action. And that predictive significance itself creates its own logic. So you have these rational principles that are then extrapolated to give you sort of a system, a political system that is considered to be rooted in reality because it's rational. Again, the limitations of that is that the systems are themselves ultimately reflections of culture. And culture, as you know, Maximilian, is rooted in cult, or the sacred. So it could be rational, the ratio, the logos in the New Testament sense, but not in this principle. John doesn't say in the beginning was the principle. John's like, in the beginning was the word, the logos, and the logos was with God, and the logos was God. The logos is the foundation, the basis for rationality. And in the ancient conception of things, like Augustine and so forth, they'll say all logic is ultimately rooted in the infinite mind of God, which, by the way, resolves the infinite regress problem of rationality. Either you would have to know everything, or you know the one who does. And that's an infinite mind. Either you have to have an infinite mind, or you know the infinite. You can always defer back to the infinite mind, as it were, so as to make your own finite decisions and so forth. So I think much of modern politics was very much rooted in rationality, in rational principles, rationally derived principles that were supposedly accessible to all people, irrespective of their culture. So libertarians can get into that, or globalists can get into that, liberals can get into that. So that's why they get into human rights, right? Not American rights, not Japanese rights, but human rights, because these transcend culture, because they're rooted in rational principles. But you need a how do I say it? You need a kind of imperialistic culture to start thinking that way. That is rooted in a culture that values rationality as the principal form of knowledge. Not all cultures do. So there you go. It's a very, very fascinating discussion. You always ask the best questions, Maximilian. Terry, what shall we do about the element of conspiratorial anti-Semitism that's crept into the MAGA movement and found its voice in certain allegedly right-wing detractors of MAGA as not right enough for their taste? Influencers like Daryl Castle, Bradley Dean, Nick Fuentes, and Tucker Carlson especially insist that God is through with national Israel, that Israel ran Epstein, and that Israel should be no more. Comment. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I think you want to be a little careful by calling it anti-Semitic. I mean, the anti-Semitism that I'm clearly seeing is primarily on the left, where students on college campuses are being harassed and actually discriminated against because they're Jews. That, as I understand, that is kind of your textbook definition of anti-Semitism. Is the social ostracization of a Jewish people group, a deliberate social ostracization. So it really comes down to how you're defining the anti-Semitism. What I'm seeing, and I don't follow Nick Fuentes, so I get asked him a lot. I just don't follow him. So I couldn't comment, and the others I can't comment. With Tucker's been very clear on this. Tucker makes a very clear distinction between the Jewish people and the modern state, the modern government of Israel. He makes a very clear distinction between the Jewish people, and particularly the diaspora around the world, and the Likud and the policies of the Israeli government and the Mossad, their intelligence agencies, right, and the IDF. So he's extremely critical of the modern Israel government because he believes it exercises inordinate influence in Washington, D.C. through what's known as the Israel lobby. So this is Professor John Mearsheimer, the University of Chicago, has written a book. It's a very good book. Again, you don't have to read it per se. You could just read up on or watch a podcast interview. But he wrote it back, I think, in the early 2000s. And it was a sociological study, political study, geopolitical study, ultimately, of the radically successful influence of very deliberate, persuasive mechanisms and processes and practices of highly paid, very bright, very effective Jewish lobbyists on behalf of the nation of Israel and to promote Israeli policy, both abroad and here in the United States. So that's what he's very concerned about. He's very concerned that that is part of a globalist liberal structure in Washington, D.C., and it is part of dismantling it as part of dismantling the administrative state. Getting rid of exercising the administrative state involves exercising as well the Jewish lobby. In terms of just blanket statements like, well, it's the Jews and the Jews are about that kind of stuff. No, I hear you. That sounds very, very anti-Semitic, especially historically speaking. And if that's kind of the rhetoric that's coming out, again, I would see it as part of the bigger picture of just Western identity and the kind of ambiguous place. And again, I haven't done a study on it. This is prima facie, but the ambiguous place that Jews have had, particularly in Europe, after the original diaspora, and it was 70 AD and then 135 AD, when after Rome basically destroyed Jerusalem and scattered the Jews around the world. And so it's, it could be something very much akin to the kind of suspicions that you'll hear among, say Romanians and gypsies, for example, and just they're nomads that they're not one of us. They're not a part of our land. And so it may be that, again, we're moving from ideology to identity. So that might be the darker side of it, or however you want to phrase it. But that's what I see. To be fair to all, what I would say is, generally speaking, on the right, there is the concern that the modern Israeli government, secular government, well, it's becoming more theocratic. Yeah, I'll give you that. Especially as Israel's demography goes more and more Haredi Jewish. But they make a distinction between that and the Jews. And they love Jewish people, but they believe the Israeli government exercises too much influence in Washington, D.C., and dismantling that influence is part of the overall dismantling of the administrative state. Now, in terms of God being done with Israel and so forth, yeah, Terry, I mean, I got to tell you, that is classical Christian theology. It's called supersession. I mean, it's, we're very sensitive to that because we're modern day American evangelicals tend to be dispensationalists. That's a 19th century John Nelson Darby theology that made the promise that God gave to the Jews the centerpiece of the Bible, and that is permanent. Whereas the vast majority of Christian history has said that while Jews remain part of God's plan of salvation, Romans 9-11, the church is now the true Israel of God. The church is now the true people of God. That's supersession. That's been classical. All the major theologians, as I understand it, held to some form of supersession up until about the 19th century. So I just want to be fair there. We have to be historically accurate. So if somebody says that God is through with the nation of Israel, I'm sorry, they do, historically speaking and theologically speaking, they do have justification for the through, not in terms of God's redeeming of the world. I think Paul's argument in Romans 9-11 is actually very, very clear, and the best theologians see that God is saving the world, the entire world, most especially the Jews at the end, as part of his whole salvific process through Christ. But that doesn't mean and it is in faithfulness to the original promises. But that doesn't mean that that Israel right now has a special claim on God as over and against, say, Russia, or as over and against Greece or Bulgaria, or Italy or America for that matter. So that's just where there would be some disagreement. The one and only Rock Dog Dr. Steve Fox News interviewed the CEO of Crowds on Demand about being offered $20 million to get protesters nationwide for some other BS leftist protests this weekend against Trump. Looking into the company, they're out of LA, and they provided paid protesters as far back as 2018. Interesting, I believe. Why isn't the Justice Department looking into these people as domestic terrorists? They are, number one. And how many of their employees, aka paid protesters, set fire to buildings or cars or looted? Okay, so as I understand that they are being looked at. That's what we're finding out more and more, that this and again, I'm not trying to be an apologist. I was very critical of Trump. In his blustering stance against Russia, and I've been very critical of Trump of how he's handled the Epstein fiasco, and same with Pam Bondi. I'm not an apologist. I'm not Trump first. I am America first when all said and done. I believe that Pam Bondi, from the evidence that I'm seeing, she is on it. She is on it. They are investigating all this stuff, and over the course of the next year, I know it takes a long time, but over the course of next year, we're going to see a lot of indictments. That's what I understand. Record, Dr. Turley. I told you, Mem Donnie was blackpilling me. Now it's Somali. I did see that. Now a Somali socialist is running for mayor in Minneapolis. This looks bad to me. How successful do you think this guy will be? I know it's technically not my problem down here in Alabama. That's for sure. But I would like to visit these places again sometime without having to worry about their Soviet, I love that, governments trying to take all my money. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know too much about this Somali guy, Somali socialist. He seems pretty, Mamdani-ite. I mean, they're going full Marxist. They're going full communist. That's just clear. We knew they were. They're just being blunt about it. Look, I don't know how successful he'll be in Minneapolis, but the Democrats are scared to death of these guys. Okay, they are. Look, how do I put this simply? The Democrats have lost the white vote since 1964. 1964 was the last time, Lyndon B. Johnson, last time Democrats won the white vote. Since then, they've been losing white vote around 60%. What do you think? James Carville's been saying this with Ilhan Omar, especially with insulting white men, or AOC. Or Jasmine Crockett. What the hell are you doing going out there talking about how racist of a nation we are, and how this nation is rooted in the cesspool of vile white supremacy? How do you think you're going to win back the white voter? How are you going to do that? The answer is you're only further alienating yourselves from them. And that's what Mamdani and Somalian socialist guys. That's all they're doing. And that's why Democrats like James Carville, Raging Cajun, they're just scratching their heads going, what do I even say at this point? This is a party that is just absolutely imploding in real time. It's just, so I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I just think their imploding cities are beautiful. Well, maybe I should find a better adjective. Dramatic, explicit symbols of their political prospects as a party. Rachel, can you please interview Curtis Sliwa? I think it's Sliwa, isn't it? Of New York City to bring awareness. He's making historic headway with striking distance. Please, Dr. Steve, help him. No one is fight. Shame on Cuomo splitting the vote. I'll try, Rachel. I'll see. We can always reach. I'd love to interview Curtis. It'd be wonderful. Thank you for that, Rachel. You're very passionate. I could say. I'm wondering are you in New York City? Let me know. I grew up in Connecticut. I know. I'm just an hour and 20 minutes away from you guys by train. Davros on the 12th of May, 2021. You said, oh my. After this election, okay, so that's May. It seems there's little hope and no way to rebuild what's been lost. But this is not the end. In fact, it is only the beginning. 3 months later, Biden betrayed us in Afghanistan and sent my Afghan co-writer running from the Taliban, starting a 2-year nightmare to save him. Thanks for your optimism and your hope, grounded in real polling and registration data. Golly, you were so right. Have you considered running a greatest hits episode? God bless. I mean, that's pretty cool. Thank you for that. That's really sweet. Did my team put you up to that? We should, yeah, I mean, that's so cool. Thank you, Davros. Yeah, I mean, this whole channel started as a result of my doctoral study. So and it's another reason why we call it Dr. Steve Turley, because I discovered this. So back in the day, it was called post-secular studies. Some call it post-globalist studies, post-liberal studies. It's increasingly now being called civilizationalist studies. But back in the day, so this is during Obama, I came across a whole field of study in a Durham University library in the UK that were basically liberal scholars arguing that the days of liberalism were over and the world was going right. And it was happening right here in Europe. That's where you were seeing it. The nationalist populist parties, the populist right parties, back in the 90s were fringe. 1%, 2%, maybe 3% support. Austria made a breakthrough, by the way, back then. And National Rally would every once in a while in France would make a breakthrough. The Austrian Freedom Party, that is. But other than that, 1%, 2%. The AfD didn't exist. I don't even think Lega exists back then, or the Brothers of Italy. Brothers of Italy, yeah, they were there. But again, 1%, 2%. Vox Party in Spain, they didn't exist. And Reform, certainly in the UK, didn't even exist 3 or 4 years ago, right? But these scholars were saying, so in the 90s, they're only getting about 1%, 2%. Now they're getting 5, 10, 15, 17%. And if this trajectory continues, they're going to start winning elections. They're going to start taking over countries. And lo and behold, where are we? A third of Europe's countries right now are nationalist populist governments. And it's going to be half. And then it's going to be 2/3. So they were seeing the same thing in Russia with the rise of the archaeo-future paradigm there, where we were basically seeing kind of a orthodox statism, an orthodox Stalinism, some would call it, kind of thing, where you combine ancient Orthodox mysticism and mythology and religion with more modernist kind of authoritarian government. We're seeing the rise of Confucianism in China and the Tianxia, the mandate of heaven concept that the new president at that time, President Xi, was talking about. So what was this, 2012, around that time? We're seeing it with the rise of the BJP, the Hindu Nationalist Party that came to power just a couple of years later. And that, again, all these scholars were predicting that's what was going to happen. And they were predicting that secular Turkey would inevitably go back to its Ottoman sentiments and become far more Islamic. And so in other words, they were saying, in effect, the theocracy of Iran in 1979, however, corrupt and whatever it may be, nevertheless, the sentiment of kind of going back, of returning this, of the way forward is returning this archaeo-future model of human society and world order was inevitable. That's just the way. And then you brought Sam Huntington into that, talking about the clash of civilization, the rise of civilizationalism. And I was just like, it was just like, if these guys are right, that's where we're going. So stop blackpilling. Stop worrying about it. No, it's not going to be a clean ride, no question. But we are absolutely moving away from liberal globalism into a world of conservative, traditionalist, nationalist, populist civilizationalism. That's where we're going. Hence MAGA. And this was before even Trump came onto the scene. And that's why when he came on the scene, and this is in all the origin story of our channel, when he came on the scene, that's when I talked to my colleague, Ralph Cochran, at the classical school I was teaching at. I said, this is it. This is the nationalist, populist, traditionalist trajectory that's going on in Europe that was animating Brexit at the time. It's come to our shores. I thought it was Pat Buchanan. It kind of got, dissolved with the end of Buchanan's presidential aspirations. And with Trump, I was like, this is Buchanan 2.0. That's who he is. And I got to tell people about this because all the conservative commentary I was hearing at the time sucked. Glenn Beck hated him. Glenn Beck freaking hated him. Mark Levin's, I'll never vote for him. What's his name? Ben Shapiro. He's not a conservative. I'm like, you guys don't understand this. They were thinking like what Maximilian was saying. They were thinking in rationalist terms. They were thinking of conservatism are these timeless principles that you can apply to all cultures, irrespective of their histories and their geographies and so forth. And I'm like, no, the world's going back to nation, culture, custom, tradition, and Trump. MAGA is all about that. Make America great again. Going back. That's the way forward. So thanks, man. No, it's awesome. And I've tried to be as true to that as possible for these last, what is it now? Almost 8.5 years. We started in November of 2016. And yeah, predicted he would win. And yeah, I saw they stole the election, but I knew the globalists did not have the civilizational grounding. They didn't have the foundation to continue. And so I knew it was just going to be temporary. I knew they were going to implode. And I knew MAGA would come back stronger than ever. But I wrote that in 2021. I didn't know how. I can't, but I just know where things are moving. It's amazing stuff. Thank you, Davros. God bless you. Thank you. Darth Corn Pop. I love it, Darth. Leftoids are in no position to gloat about this Epstein thing. They were in power for the last 4 years. I could have done something about it then. Absolutely. And nobody's got an answer for that. Well, we were busy. I think one of them said, we were too busy doing too many wonderful things. Yeah, like opening the border and sending all of our jobs overseas and record inflation and forcing women to compete against trans athletes. I mean, yeah, no, you got it, Darth. No, again, nobody's buying this. That's the beauty of it. Nobody's buying it. MAGA 24-ever, Dr. Steve. From my perspective, the handling of the Epstein file was a self-made wound that slowed all the momentum, such as the One Big Beautiful Bill enacting a law, rescission bill passed. That's right, just happened the other day. Taking out Iran's nuclear bomb capability and numerous Supreme Court victories. Will focus on Epstein eventually go away as old news, or must Trump administration do something to turn the narrative? If so, what actions are needed? Yeah, no, I think that's what he's doing, with telling Pam, all right, that's it. I was waiting for this Wall Street Journal hit piece to drop. And then after it dropped, I think that was going to be the one embarrassment in there. I think that's probably what Elon Musk was referring to. After it dropped, after everyone saw how idiotic it was, he's all right, go ahead now, release the whole thing. So we'll see. And again, it's going to be hard for them to release everything because there are victims involved. But no, so I think he's taking the proactive measures to turn the narrative. But even if he didn't, yes, it would eventually go away, because in the end, we're finding that most MAGA loyalists don't care. Now, Rich Barris has pointed out, the amazing pollster, best pollster of 2024. He's pointed out MAGA is not just, the Republican MAGA loyalists, or the new working class that have all come in, that were Democrats that have now all come in to the Republican Party. It's not just that, it's independents. It's people who never, ever voted Republican before, even in midterms, who love Trump, but they feel very betrayed because they're the ones who tend to see, they're very sensitive, particularly non-white working class. They're very sensitive to two-tier justice system. They're very sensitive to a double standard of justice. And when they put Trump in because they thought he was finally going to end that. They put somebody in who got shot, who was himself a victim of all of these bogus indictments and trials. So finally, somebody who understood, and yet he goes in and then says, "Oh yeah, nothing to see here. No, Epstein, he was a choir boy, nothing to worry about." And a lot of people who were part of the MAGA movement felt very betrayed by that. But the vast majority of the MAGA movement, they don't give her. They feel exactly the way. It ain't tired of winning. Love all this win. Keep it coming. Love it. Border 100% decline in illegal border crossings. It has been completely shut down. Gone. Mass deportations by the thousands. We already have, by some estimates, 1.5 million deportations, both forced and self. Alcatraz, the real Alcatraz, getting possibly opened up again. The one big beautiful bill, permanent tax cuts, the new crypto fund that's opening up, unleashing power and wealth likes which we've never seen before because of digitality. Digitality has literally infinite scalability in a way that the second industrial revolution doesn't have, being limited to time and space. Cyberspace, we can infinitely scale. So money can expand into heights we never even imagined. Talking, literally quadrillions of dollars potentially at some point, of course. Is that what comes after trillion? I think it's quadrillion, right? Yeah. Quadrillion. No, I'm with you. I'm with you 1,000%. I mean, he signed the one big beautiful bill on July the 4th. It was amazing. The parade was incredible. The fireworks were incredible. And then I think it was that Sunday, was it the 6th? They dropped the Epstein case closed. And I was like, what? So yeah, he's going to have to pivot. But I think eventually it's going to go away as well. I just think pivoting will put him back in good graces with those who were very, very concerned. And keep in mind, I think influencers are inordinately more concerned about it than your average, rank and file grassroots MAGA supporter, because it makes less people on it. It makes for good views, and it's intriguing and seedy and so forth. And so and a lot of them have staked their credibility on it. Oh, this is it. Now Trump's going to release it. I told you, they don't want to turn into Rachel Maddow. We all have to be careful of that. We all have to be. People got very upset with me, when I thought that Trump was going to be able to turn around the 2020 on January 6th. I thought Mike Pence was going to go with Trump, and he was going to send the electors back to those 5 states that were very, very controversial and remain so to this day. Notice all those voters disappeared in 2024. Remember, Biden underperformed in every single state, underperformed from 2016 norms, for the exception of the 5 swing states at the time. In those 5 swing states, he did not just overperform, he super errogated performed. And it was all through the mail-in ballots. And we're getting more and more, evidence that clearly they were doctored and they were not valid. And I thought Mike Pence was going to send those electors back primarily to Democrat states and said, you got to give us other electors, and that it would eventually be resolved through delegations, through a congressional delegation, like it was, I forget, 18 so-and-so. We've had that happen before. And he didn't. I said I believed he was going to do that because otherwise he would kill his political career. And I thought he was totally MAGA. I was wrong. I was just wrong. No, he's an establishment guy. And they were trying to kill Trump. That he was part of the inside job of getting rid of Trump. Kill metaphorically. I have to watch out with that. But he was trying to get rid of Trump as a standard bearer of the Republican Party. And so a lot of people were mad with me on that. I get it, and I own it. And so I think a lot of influencers have been promising their audience that we're going to get to the bottom of Epstein, and they just feel like, yes. And why shouldn't they? I mean, you got Kash Patel in there, you got Dan Bongino. They were saying the same things. And to have that happen, I think they felt very betrayed. I mean, I'm talking about the influencers themselves. So anyway, and again, what I'm trying to do, MAGA 24 Hour, is I've just tried to, honestly, I'm a big tent guy. I'm MAGA 1,000%, America first. If you're with, I don't care what your backgrounds are. I don't care who you're coming from. If you are family, you come on in. We're one big, crazy, dysfunctional family, but we love faith, family, and freedom. And we love our nation. We love civilization. We despise liberals. We despise woke. And we feel sorry for them in the end, except the ones who really hurt and destroy. Then we have no sympathy for them whatsoever. And, part of that family is very upset about what happened with Epstein. And I get it. I do. I think Epstein is a symbol, not just a two-tier justice system. He is a symbol of a rogue, parallel, intelligence-oriented government, parallel government that is calling way too many shots in the world and needs to be reined in and destroyed. And if we don't, then this could all be for naught when it's done. So the MAGA movement, the MAGA revolution. So I try to, but I don't believe it's the be-all and the end-all. I think the amount of winning that has been done over the course of these now near six months. What's the date today? Two more days, and it's not even officially 6 months yet. The winning has been so glorious. I was with my uncle from San Francisco over the week. I was at Lake George, and so this is my mom's brother. He and his wife were there visiting with our whole extended family. We do this every year. He's so cool. He's born, bred. He will be buried in San Francisco, but he's a die-hard conservative, and we just chat to the wee hours. We have such a wonderful time. He's like a pig in mud. He could care less about the Epstein files. He is a pig in mud. He thinks this presidency has been about as perfect a presidency as it could possibly. You know what? I'll probably even go farther than that. He'll turn around and say, this is beyond anything I could have ever imagined a year ago. So anyway, I'm with you, MAGA 24 Hour. I don't think it's as bad. I think it is a definitely unforced error. I've heard it put, definitely unforced error. But maybe this is all part of it. Maybe we'll see. But Marilyn Deggedy, I'm worried about Russia with Greenland. Is there any hope? You saw my video last night. Yes, I do. Well, first of all, I don't think Trump is going to take over Greenland militarily. I don't think at this point, I'm not seeing that. I don't think he's going to annex it by force. And like I pointed out, all Russia is doing is pointing out, if you think you can encroach in our, orthosphere, in our hegemon, well, then we're going to encroach in yours. If you think you own Europe, well, we think we own the Arctic. It works both ways. And by the way, we have more nukes than you do. So yes, there's hope, but there it is definitely civilizational posturing, multipolar posturing for sure. RT quote, Dr. Stephen Turley for Stephen Colbert's job. Hey. Oh, well, I'm certainly funnier. Anybody could be fun. Corpse is funnier than Stephen Colbert. Very sad. I feel bad for Colbert. I do. If there was somebody I actually, I wouldn't say I sympathize or empathize, but I think he's a good, there is a heart there that is, that has in the past revealed itself to be very inclined towards Christ. So he, as I understand it, he would consider himself, I know this is kind of cringe for a lot of us, but he would consider himself a devout Catholic. This is going back like 20 years ago, okay, when he was on, what was it, the comedy show or whatever. He and he did have people like N.T. Wright, the one-time Bishop of Durham, the New Testament scholar. He had him on as a guest, the Anglican bishop, and he turned around and smiled. And the very first thing he said to him is, "Hey, no hard feelings about Henry VIII, right?" So. And there was a time he seemed to be able to engage in some moral seriousness in a way that was profound and beautiful. But then it just looked like he just sold his soul. He bought into the marketing segmentation that I guess was it CBS executives were telling him about. That, you know what, we're finding that about 65-70% of those who watch late night right now are Democrats. And if you go full like anti-Trump, we think, I mean, you could crush it in the late night wars. You'll kill Kimmel, you'll kill Jimmy Fallon. And he did. He went there and he turned his show into a deeply bitter partisan show. And at first it attracted a lot of anti-Trumpers, but then it just got ugly, and it got really horrible during the COVID fiasco, when he just became such a shill for Fauci and for Biden and for the CDC. And then I just think a lot, and then that all fell apart. The whole paradigm collapsed, and his career collapsed as well, as it turns out. So he, what does it profit a man to gain the world but lose his soul? That's just the way I see Colbert. Everything that made him great died. He was funny, he was entertaining, he was engaging. At the beginning, again, I'm talking like 20 years ago on the Comedy Channel and all. He's actually, very good. I never tuned in that much, but I mean, he was pretty good. And then it just all died. I mean, he just literally killed his career by becoming a rabid anti-Trump partisan. And again, by extension, an anti-MAGA, anti-half the country, if not 60% of the country. And and his career died. And I think he's the first. I think Kimmel and what's his name over at the Tonight Show are gonna follow him. Fallon. As well as, what's the other idiot, the late one, Seth Meyers. So again, Seth Meyers is the same thing. UP Shoot, good to hear from you, my friend. Thank you for the euros. All the screaming about Epstein, etc., reminds me of the Israelites complaining each time the journey did not go their way they expected. God bless Trump. Woo! That's a little bit of conviction there. Pretty good, UP. Pretty good. Yeah. Is this a little grumbling? What is it? Grumbling in the wilderness? Yeah. I think so. I think we're seeing a little grumbling in the wilderness. I love that, UP. That's brilliant. Brilliant theology. Yeah. Yeah. And bottom line, the grumbling is not trusting in the promises and provisions of God. So God gives the Israelites right at the beginning a law, and every law command is a call to trust in the promises and provisions of God. So you shall have no other gods before me, because you trust I'm the God that will provide for you. You're not to steal because you trust that I'm going to take care of you. You're not to covet because you trust what I've given to you, and on and on and on. So every law command is in reverse, as it were, a call to trust in the promises and provisions of God. And what you just said, UP, it strikes me in the heart, because literally 1 year ago, right, on J13, we saw a bona fide miracle. God saved the life of President Trump by a millimeter. It just doesn't get closer than that. And we're grumbling. And he gave us this wonderful victory. Again, you just can't. He gained votes in 2020, and he gained votes again in 2024. You just can't get away from that. First Republican to win the popular vote since 2024. First candidate, I think, since 84 to win all 7 swing states. Not even Obama could pull that off. He's had this amazing, unblemished streak of victories since January 20th. And we're grumbling. We're murmuring. Brilliantly said. UP, brilliantly said. You cut us to the quick, as they say. Janice, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you so much, Janice. Johnny the Whiz Kid, the reason this took so long is probably because Trump doesn't care for it as much as his supporters. He didn't campaign on it as hard. That's true. He did not. It would come up every once in a while, but he never. This was not something you would hear at any or every campaign stop. As far as I know, he never even promised to release the files. I'm not sure he did. I wish he did. But if his base wouldn't kept their mouth shut, and stupid Bondi wouldn't have pulled that ridiculous stunt with the binders. Oh, gosh, talking about an unforced error. To MAGA influencers, this turmoil wouldn't have happened. But it falls on Trump because of how it was mishandled. This is one where he deserves criticism. Yeah, well said. Don't disagree with a single syllable there. Yes, well said. Will O'Toole. Welcome back, Dr. Steve. From a PR standpoint, who do you blame for the Epstein files fiasco? Well, I think what we heard. I think in the end, you have to blame Trump. The buck stops with Trump. I think it got away from him a little bit because, again, in fairness, Epstein was not the center of MAGA. It was not the center of the America First platform. In fairness, it never was. It was border security, it was economic security, it was cultural security. And it was dismantling the deep state. And to the extent that Epstein was a symbol of that deep state and the two-tier justice that we have, sure, we're going to bring him in there as well. But he wasn't the essence of those things. But it got away from him. I think it was absolutely right. You had the absurdity of the Pam Bondi binder thing with the influences. I do think Pam was sabotaged a bit with that, with the New York office. Now Comey's daughter, we now know, has just been fired. She was there. So I think she did get a little sabotaged on that one. But again, it's up to her not to get sabotaged. It's up to her to identify sabotaging and get rid of them immediately and then rectifying the situation. So in the end, I do see this ultimately as Trump, and then penultimately, I guess we say, Pam Bondi. So hopefully they're going to work this out. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. Life of Brian, good to hear from you, my friend. The neocons seem to have interrupted MAGA when it was making a mistake. Unfathomably stupid. Had they done nothing, MAGA would be feuding. Well said. Well said, Life of Brian. That's kind of my point at the beginning. They're so narcissistic. They're so self-unaware that they engage in unforced errors that actually destroy them, that actually hurt them and sideline them for the next several months. Well said. Will O'Toole, I saw the video on Spain. I was thoroughly aghast. Was that not crazy? If you guys haven't seen it, go look. It's what is it? Europe is descending to anarchy. I saw the video on Spain. It was thoroughly aghast with the behavior of Spanish law enforcement. I fear that Europe is literally going to turn into a bloodbath, but wonder what side the military law will take, the Spanish citizens or the infiltrator. Your ideas, please. Well, again, it just depends who's in power. I don't trust European powers that be, including law enforcement, as long as Brussels is calling the shots. I just don't. So if Vox comes to power, if Abascal comes to power, then no, then you can imagine the law enforcement will be like with Tom Homan. But until then, yeah, it's ambiguous. It's very ambiguous because they could be standing against the protesters who are trying to fight for their country. Yeah, and we're seeing that in the UK all the time, for example. RoboGuy 75. All the Democrats had to do during the Epstein thing was nothing. We're seeing this recurring theme, are we not? You guys are all catching the same thing. I agree with you 1,000%. But they could not resist and joined in via the Wall Street Journal and got rightfully curb stomped. Brilliantly put. Wow. Brilliant. Hi, Q. Good to hear from you, my friend. The alternative to Trump is insanity. But there's still customers out there doing what they're doing to children. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is what's, what do I want to say? This is our hedge. This is ultimately our hedge against our own sort of self-sabotaging or our own unforced errors, and which inevitably happen. We're human. To err is human, as one great Englishman once said. So no, I think the main hedge we have is no matter our unforced errors, no matter our screw ups on the right, we don't want to destroy you. we don't want to surgically manipulate your children. We don't demand trans athletes compete with your daughter and get dressed with her and undressed with her in the women's locker room and women's safe spaces and so forth. Yeah, no, we may have disagreements and we may have faltering and failing, but they are insane. They're nuts. And people will go with the to err is human crowd before they go with Bedlam. You like how I did a nice Anglo imagery there, huh? Hi, Q. Not bad, not bad. BW, I'm so afraid this tear MAGA apart, and it's not even the most important thing. The people on the list could be arrested for so many things. No, I'm with you. I don't think it will, BW. I don't think it's going to tear MAGA apart ultimately, largely because of what just Q had pointed out. The other side is insane. Now, I guess they could. Our side could just, particularly the low propensity voter who is more prone to being interested in Epstein, interestingly enough. That's what Rich Barris has found. They may not turn out, for the midterms, or they may not turn out for 2028. Okay, that could happen. Yeah. But I think we're a little early in the game on that. I don't see it. If Trump does an effective pivot and releases the Epstein files as a form now of defense against this clear hit job by Wall Street Journal and Democrats, he's going to come out, and with all of us rallying around him in the process. I mean, he's going to come out the superior for it. RoboGuy 75, with the amount of Muslims trying to impose Sharia law, like in Texas and other places, do you think Trump will ban it? Or if it gets bad, start deporting them, or at least the ones calling for Sharia law? Can't be like Europe here. Yeah, well, we're far away from that. Europe again is right there. Europe is their mass migration is from Northern Africa and Middle East, and that is the Islamosphere, civilizational sphere. Our illegal migration is primarily from Latin American Catholic countries. So we just don't have anywhere near the numbers. I mean, we're talking they've got 3, 4, 5x the amount of Muslims there, and it's becoming a real problem. Again, it's not just Muslims, but Muslims from non-Western, non-European countries. So yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Clearly, it's a concern. It's part and parcel of the tribalization and the civilizationalism of what's happening today, because part of that civilizationalism can be separatism. It can be a kind of soft secessionism, that we in our town are going to have our own laws and they're going to be Islamic, things like that. And yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, President Trump certainly doesn't sound like he's going to tolerate anything even remotely like that. And I doubt I doubt Austin is going to, not Austin, the city, Austin, the government is going to tolerate that either. Life of Brian. Trump needs to court the supporters he spat on. This is a gift, but he's not out of the woods. Amnesty, Ukraine, deep state acquiescence can still hurt. Well, he's already said that the amnesty bill that was floated by that rhino is dead DOA. That's not happening. So I don't think you have to worry about that. I don't know what Charlie was talking about. I know Charlie made some headlines. I don't know. I know he just made some headlines saying, hey, word on the street is there's a full court press to get Trump to accept some kind of amnesty. And yes, he did that whole thing with farmers and, illegal migrants working on farms and so forth. Yeah, we shouldn't be going after them. Yes. And again, another sort of unforced error there. I don't know what that was. I think he was concerned about Iowa, some votes in Iowa, some votes in Wisconsin. We'll see. But I think he did that the wrong way. Nevertheless, so you don't have to worry about amnesty. Ukraine, yes. We'll see what he does. Ukraine, yes. He better not. I've come out and said that. You got to know what time it is. We are not a unipolar world. We don't get to tell the world what to do. You sure as hell don't get to bomb Tehran and then tell Moscow they can't bomb Kiev. You can't do that anymore. You could do that in 92. You could do that in 2002. You could do that in 2012. You cannot do that now. We are in a multipolar world. We don't get to run around bombing whoever the hell we want to bomb and then freak out when Russia does the same thing, as it were. Right. So, no, I'm with you. So he's got to watch out. And then deep state acquiescence. Yeah. We'll have to see to what extent he's delivering on the deep state. I mean, again, in fairness, so much of federal employees have been let go now. What are we at now? They got 125,000, 150,000 federal employees have either been forcibly removed, fired, or they've taken early retirement. I think it was 75,000 who took early retirement. That's gigantic. The Supreme Court just green-lighted 1,400 bureaucrats at the National Education Association. I'm sorry, the Department of Education. NEA is a union. The Department of Education, that's half their workforce. So he's NPR was just defunded with the latest DOGE bill, rescissions bill. So he is dismantling. Pam Bondi is firing a number of DOJ officials. All the Jack Smith guys are gone. All the people associated with prosecuting J6ers are gone. All the J6ers have been pardoned. I mean, this is a guy who's kept his promises. So we just have to trust the guy who got shot in the face for us. I think we do. I think we owe him that, while still being critical, just like you are, which I appreciate. Eric, I have Epstein fatigue. So Eric, you'll be one of them. Yep. Yeah, you'll be one of them as well. Yeah, my uncle, who's as conservative as the day is long, couldn't give a rip about Epstein. And you're the majority. I'm just going to say it. In the end, you're in the majority. As we're seeing it in all the polling that's coming out, you're the majority. Most Republicans, most MAGA don't care. But there is a very vocal wing that does. And, they do. Trump has to be. That's politics. You have to be able to balance it all out. But I'm with you, man. I'm with you. BW, I think existentialism is just a leftist idea designed to drive people into nihilism so they don't care about what happens to them. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, Dostoevsky is technically an existentialist, right? What's a good, how do we, good definition of existentialism? Let me go to Trusty AI, a philosophical theory or approach which emphasizes the existence of the individual person as a free and responsible agent determining their own development through acts of the will. Yeah, definitely, I think there's a nihilism to the extent that it amputates people from, nation, culture, custom, tradition, family, faith, all the things that awaken a sense of obligation within us. Because when we have a sense of obligation, it ultimately creates a sense of gratitude. And what I hate about particularly liberal existentialism, like you're seeing with someone like Meghan Markle, for example, or Prince Harry, is they argue that they're under no moral obligations apart from that which they personally choose to impose upon themselves. But you don't choose your family. You don't choose your parents. You don't choose your nation. Technically, historically, you don't choose your religion. You don't choose your community. They choose you. And therefore, they awaken a sense of obligation to people, places, beliefs, traditions that you did not choose, but that chose you. And that you have an obligation to. And that obligation, in its best expression, is a gratuity. It's the awakening of gratitude. And the root there is grace. It's all grace. It's all been given to you. You and I didn't choose Christmas. Christmas is the gift. That's the greatest gift we've been given. It's Christmas. All the gifts are just simply symbols of the greatest gift of them all. And existentialism, liberal existentialism, says, no, I choose all my moral obligations. And I have no obligation to you unless I assent to it and agree to it. And that's why anybody who embraces that, they never enlist in the military. They never fight for anything. There's no loyalty. They will politically betray you in a heartbeat. So yeah, I like, and I like the way you push that into a nihilism, and then you end up becoming morally numb, and therefore ironically easily manipulated. I like that very much. Andrew, where can I get your conversations with Academic Agent? I don't know if we put them on our website or our YouTube. Micah, do you know? I mean, Academic Agent should have it on his YouTube channel. So I would put like Dr. Steve Turley, Academic Agent. And we've had, I think, 2 or 3 interviews. I did even something with the Lotus Eaters on the night of the election. I think that's the last time I chatted with them, November 5th. Oh, and then if you want the wider wing, the kind of the motley crew, as it were. And I think we have some very good, very informative interview that I did. That I interviewed Carl Benjamin, if you know, Sergeant of COD, Carl Benjamin, as well. But they're all good mates, and so yeah, I would just go to Academic Agent's YouTube channel, and you should be able to find it there. Baha Cat, do you believe that the rising anti-Israel sentiment at Epstein revelations will lead to them eventually losing their allies' protection, set the stage for the prophesied Gog and Magog's end time war? That's no, Baha Cat. That's reading way too much into it for me, But again, it's what is Gog and Magog really referring to is the question. Again, I know there's sorry, yeah, I'm looking at a note I got just from Micah. Yeah, some would say it involves the current modern state of Israel. Some would say no, it's more allegorical. I don't get too much into the prophetic stuff just because there's I'm Eastern Orthodox, so we tend to have a different schema for understanding a lot of this prophetic the prophetic passages in Scripture. But what is that? Ezekiel 38. I'm forgetting what Gog and Magog. 38, 39. I thought so. SC, thank you for the pound sterling. How likely will Trump release the files. I'm neutral because of the potential lawsuits and international leaders being indicted. Still sad. Yeah, I'm with you on that. We'll see. It's supposed to be, at least the process is supposed. He publicly told Pam Bondi to release it as of last night, and so she said we're on it. We're on it as of today. So I don't know. I don't have a timeline in front of me, so I don't know. But I'm with you. Yeah, potential lawsuits. We have to be careful because there are a lot of victims, lots, and international figures getting exposed. Yeah, no question. BW establishment actually wants mum dummy. I love mum dummy, or why run Cuomo? Cuomo, a candidate with more baggage than. Is that LA? Is that Los Angeles International? Is that they want mum dummy? I think I'm understanding it. So with more baggage, Stott actually wants Mamdani, or why run Cuomo, a candidate? I see. Got it. Okay. All right. It just took me all those letters, all those abbreviations. So you're thinking by running Cuomo's guaranteed that Mum Dummy, I love that, would win. Marxist Dummy or Carl Dummy. Possibly. The problem's, though, that the Cuomo name is still very popular in New York. It really is. I mean, I grew up in Connecticut, and I mean, we all knew who Mario Cuomo was. What is it? The Tappan Z's been renamed, the bridge is the Mario Cuomo Bridge. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people thought Cuomo was going to win just because of name recognition, but you're right. Maybe he just got too much baggage. The argument is, though, if Sliwa, this is the argument. I'm not saying it's right, but if Sliwa were to drop out and Adams were to drop out, Cuomo could win. Adams doesn't look like he's going to pull this off. Adams looks like he's very, very unpopular in New York, but we'll see. We'll see. When's the AOC lawsuit happening, since you just call him a forcer of himself on the women? I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him sue her ass. I just think she is just, again, she's bought into this. It's like this Stephen Colbert curse where, hey, it's just this worm tongue whispering in your ear. You can be really, really successful if you bash Trump. And the more outrageously you bash him, just think of some of the things Colbert said about Trump and Putin, right? Back in his first term in Trump 1.0. I mean, he said some pretty revolting things. And it just seems like that's exactly what AOC is trying to do. She's trying to out bombshell, not bombshell, what's it? Just out vulgarize, I guess, just her fellow Democrats. And that's hard. So yeah, I hope he does. Curtis Gaines, what do you think of Alan Dershowitz saying the federal judges in New York are responsible for the redactions of the Epstein files? I've followed on for a long time, and I think he's an honest man. Yeah, no, and he's had to defend his own name, because his name got kind of soiled. I wouldn't even say soiled, but it just got dragged into all of this, and it looks like he has very much been quite successful and rightly clearing his name with Epstein and so on. So he has seen the files. He has seen the so-called list. He's kind of gone back and forth on that. On one hand, he said there was a list. I thought originally he said the list. He's seen it. And then he said, well, technically it's not a list. It's whatever, but he has seen the files, and he believes they are again, that both Trump and Bondi are in effect being sabotaged from inside. And he has been very good in coming out and defending the complexities of releasing these files. It's so easy on a podcast to say, this is what you got to do. And I don't care what podcast, it could be on mine. I don't care. Lay the blame on me. It's so easy to say, look, just release the files. What's the problem? And he's saying, dude, these are court documents. These are these are grand jury documents. These are not things that you just release. It doesn't work that way. And you have, and in fairness to even the president and his executive power, he's in a judicial lane here. This is the lane of the courts, and the courts ultimately are going to make the decisions on this. So, and this is where the Justice Department comes in. That's the bridge between the executive branch and the courts. And so, yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Alan Dershowitz has been great. We should have him on the show and see if he can bring some clarity on the issue. It's very good. No longer a Democrat anymore. Another one who left the Democrat Party. The one and only Dr. Dr. Steve, when is the DOJ going to arrest Comey, Karen, Basshole, and Newscomb for sedition, since they've come out and said they're using taxpayer funds in California to help hide illegal invaders from ICE officers? Why is Comey Karen allowed to even hold office since you violated the Communist Control Act of 1956? I don't know about that part. I'm with you. I guess she could just deny she's a communist, but I don't know when, Tom Homan has made it absolutely clear. You stand in the way of ICE agents doing their job, you're getting arrested, pure and simple. So we'll see. We'll see if they go too far. Davros on July 16th talked about Ghislaine Maxwell. Her real name is Ghislaine, right? What's the difference? Ghislaine, her real Maxwell. Possibly subpoenaed to testify to Congress. Why wouldn't she tell Congress to pound sand? Oh, would they put her in jail? She could be pardoned. That's right. That's the point. In exchange for naming names. But if Ghislaine named Democrats, wouldn't they have a strong defense? Of course, Ghislaine named Democrats because Trump told her to do in exchange for a part. Possibly. Yeah. I think it's more let the chips fall where they may kind of approach to things. Look, in the end, let's just be blunt. Right now, this is about satisfying a very vocal portion, a very significant portion of Trump's base, who are very, very concerned that two-tier justice and a rogue government deep state are not being reined in by the Pam Bondi Justice Department. Bottom line, that's their concern. And that Trump is betraying them in taking Pam's side rather than theirs. So bringing out Ghislaine Maxwell for a massive public testimony, dropping bombshells, that's what they just want the truth out. They don't care what the Democrats do with it afterward. That's the sense that I get. So, but it's a great point. Yeah, I love the way you're thinking. How often you often share information in terms of bad news for Democrats instead of good news for Republicans, or great news for American freedom. You're not alone. Many freedom YouTubers also frequently express information from the perspective of devastation for Democrats instead of goodness for American freedom and Republicans. Why do you suppose it is this way? Is this a deliberate choice you make? Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty even-handed on it. Trump just got a massive victory, or, things like that. The positive and the negative. I think the negative tends to, if it is that the negative tends to get the tilt, and I tend to bias towards the negative, or others are biased towards the negative. I think it's because, bottom line, we have been so inundated with the very black pillars that I was talking about that constantly make you feel like there's just no, resistance is futile. There's no way we can beat. I have sat and talked with so-called conservatives who have told me point blank, you can't beat the deep state. The deep state will beat you every time. It's just got to fall. The whole thing's got to fall. There's no way we can win this. I mean, I've been on with influencers who've literally said that to me. Where they go off into these conspiracy theories and say, you can't stop that. This is bigger than America. This big, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, so I think I like focusing on, no, we're beating the crap out of them. We're beating the living snot out of them. We are taking these guys out. And so that, to me, I think we get excited to see that. We get excited, because you could say, Mike, maybe like in a big fight or something, Mike Tyson won, or you could say Mike Tyson just beat the living crap out of this guy, or something. You could go either way. Well, if you really hated this guy and despise this guy, then you'll probably err on the side of he beat the crap out of him. Whereas if you're just a fan of boxing or saying, yeah, Mike Tyson won. Great job. You're just a fan for America. We won. Here's another win. The one and only Dr. Steve. I still think the Epstein issue is another 4D chess move by Trump. So do I. It's appearing more and more that way. Now you have Kevin Spacey demanding the release of the files along with low IQ Democrats in Congress. The 4D move I see is the sewer rats demanding the total exposure of the entire deep state. Your thoughts, checkmate? Yeah, I love the way you're thinking. What it looks like Trump may be doing is he's actually getting DC to give up the deep state inadvertently. I don't get me wrong. I think the Democrats would freak out the moment all of Epstein came out, because they must know something, or I don't know what, or they knew this was going to come out. Wait till you see this is going to drop. This Wall Street Journal article is going to drop. But I don't think they realize, again, how it just plays right into Trump's hands. In many ways, the way you're talking about. In Human Condition, thank you for the super chat. Dr. Steve, Virginia Community College instructor here. How are you, myself? I taught at Anne Arundel Community College for a number of years. How about Trump ending the Department of Ed? Can he get rid of it? I hope so. Yeah, so he can. He can basically turn it into a skeleton. But in the end, in order to get rid of the undergirdings, the Congress is going to have to act, because it's been so enshrined in legislative law. But he can hire and fire as he sees fit, because it comes under executive authority. So what the Supreme Court seemed to do is last week or so is give him the green light to go ahead and gut it all he wants by cutting the workforce in half, and then he'll cut the other half of the workforce in due time. So he can gut it. To fully and completely abolish it and get rid of it, that's going to require Congress. We'll see. And again, once it's gone, it's going to be hard to bring it back. It's going to be very, very hard to justify bringing it back. So that's why the Democrats are so flipped out over it. Johnny Whizkid, how would you like to see both Hayao Miyazaki and Don Bluth, or Bluth? I actually don't know Don Bluth. Meet and talk about their work. I'm going to have to write that down. I don't know Don Bluth. You were teaching me, my friend. They're the only two living legends for hand-drawn animation. Also, what are your favorite films from each? I haven't seen them all, but so far mine are Spirited Away and The Secret of Nim. Okay, so Secret of Nim, Bluth? I'm assuming it. So I may have seen that. Well, my favorite is Spirited Away, Miyazaki, hands down. I shared that with my kids when they were young ones. What is the latest one we just saw? Movie. You're probably saying it right now. The Boy and the Heron. I absolutely loved The Boy and the Heron. Princess Mononoke was good. I have to watch it again. I was a little confused, which is good. That means I have to get into it more. Kiki's Delivery Service. My kids love that. So my kids have all been to Studio Ghibli in Tokyo when they go and visit their Gigi and Baba. So, but those are my super favorites. And there's a documentary on Hayao Miyazaki, if you haven't seen it. I think it was on Netflix as well. You definitely want to check out. And I admit ignorance on. Is it Don Bluth? I'll have to check him out. Shihar Alex Jones said Trump and his team were calling conservative influencers. Did they call you? By the way, you're the absolute best commentator. Well, thank you. God bless you. No, I did not get any call or any contact from the White House. Hey, you better make sure. No, I did not. I think they, if anything, I don't like the way. I thought Mark Dice was cynical on this. Basically, saying, "Oh, you got the call. The White House is trying to control your content." Well, maybe they are, but again, control is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like propaganda. There's good propaganda. There's bad propaganda. You want to be persuasive of the truth. So with the way this is played out, it seems to me that Trump knew, look, we're going to get this bombshell. And then I'm going to counter this bombshell and we're going to release the files, but not until this hits. Something akin to that. But no, they did not call me. And I very much appreciate that. That's very kind of you. I am honored to even just be considered among all the commentators. Starblazer, Dr. Phil, would you please interview Whitney Webb? Oh, yeah, she's done by far the most in-depth research into Epstein, even recently wrote a 2-volume book, One Nation Under Black. Okay, yeah, I thought it was Under Surveillance or something like that. Yeah, she's Whitney Webb is awesome, and I would love to. Yes. So Micah, maybe we can reach out to Whitney and see if we can get her for an interview. The one she did with Glenn Beck was brilliant. That's Glenn Beck at his best. Is just kind of this trying to put the pieces together with kind of the, I hate even calling it like conspiracy stuff, but like deep state stuff. That's where he's at his absolute best. And it looks like that is it. All right, gang. Great hanging out with you. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll be on my back porch. I'll be your back porch professor all throughout the weekend. So watch out for some brand new updates, breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Love you all. God bless.